right. So our next speaker. So, we've got three more today, and I'm really excited because Jean Kuhn, she's she's a serial entrepreneur. Been doing this for 40 years. Um, she bought her first bankrupt franchise in 2002, right? And she turned it into a profitable cash generating machine in 12 months, adding 100K to the bottom line. And then in 2006, she bought a second bankrupt franchise and created another cash generating machine in under 12 months and added slightly over 100K to the bottom line. And she did this with no lists, no websites, no budget for marketing. She created low cost, no cost marketing, and she conducted these strategies, and now she teaches those strategies to others today. She really is a business growth genius. She has been successful at these strategies since 2006, and today she's here to talk to us about how to do this kind of work in your business and in the world. So welcome to the stage, Jean Kuhn. Hello, Jean.
Hello. How are you?
I'm great. How are
Good.
you?
Good. I'm pretty certain that I did not put business growth genius in my bio,
I put that in
but,
your bio.
but I think I'm going to add it, right? So thanks for having me here today.
Yeah, no, I put it in there because I actually, when you think about transforming bankruptcy into growth, like the art of transformation of a business, right? That really transforming. I did turnarounds too in my work, so I know this is where we're both similar. But you do it, and it is a unique skill. Takes a lot of leadership. And it takes a lot of vision to be able to know you can do that. So I'm just acknowledging your success and yeah, what your skills are. So Jean, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you. And I until you were just talking about that, we decided you invited me to talk here today. I did not look at it that way. I did not look at it like I led a team to turn that around. I could not have turned around two bankrupt stores by myself, right? I had to have a team. And I say this all the time, and I see it in other entrepreneurs that they don't want to be the leader of their businesses, right? They love what they do and they just want to do that and hire other people to do what they don't want to do. And they don't want to be the leader in order so it all comes together. So, yeah, thanks for having me here.
Of course. So the first question, Jean, that we want to ask, that we're asking everyone, is
Yeah.
really around how does love play into this game, right? So as you look at these businesses and you transitioned them into growth engines, what is it about love that played into your approach, either with the business itself, the employees, the clients, yourself? Tell us the love game in your work.
Yeah, I don't think I really even knew what it was until about, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. And I see a couple of my clients on here and I started when I have I think truth, first of all, is the way to leadership, is the way to love them. And so we have a thing that when I need to say something really hard, they know it because I start with, I love you, right? Because I don't want them to ever interpret something I say to them as anything but the fact that I want the best for them.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes it's really hard for me to say that, and it's really hard for them to hear it. So I think you have to incorporate the truth always when you're talking to people. And I never said that to my employees. First of all, that's probably an HR violation, right? So I'm not about going around talking about, especially when I was dealing with my employees were mostly teenagers. So kind of weird, right, for a middle-aged woman to be talking about loving them while I'm kicking their ass for not getting their work done, right? In a loving way.
Well, so I love that you brought up truth. I think that, when you talk about, oh, it's so great because I know we both have like some biblical background, which I always love as well. But if you think about truth, right, you don't know someone unless you have the truth. You really don't know them. you don't know a business unless you have the truth, right? Someone's slacking off, someone's, you're not talking to enough clients. Um, your sales department is too busy slacking off, right? Like the truth is the only way to know something.
Right.
And only when you know something can you love it. Right. So I love that paradigm of the truth, kind of leading with the truth, because the reality is love does not always mean that it's going to feel good. It's going to be, it can be kind to discipline, but it's not going to feel like it at the moment.
Right.
Right. I think we often make love to be this sort of like, oh, amazing. Love has boundaries. Love respects. Love corrects. And I just think that it's a beautiful reminder for us as we talk about love and leadership, because it's not just about the feel good stuff.
No, and you said something, and oh gosh, I wish I could go back. I should have written it down when you said it, because when you talk about the truth, right, you also are leading yourself when you tell yourself the truth, right? And that's really hard for a lot of people to do that. So what does that look like? That looks like, are you tracking your revenue every day because you need to know you haven't brought in any sales, right? Are you going out there and being honest with yourself about what you are doing, kind of like what you said, right? That are you being, you're not making enough phone calls, or you're not reaching out enough, or you're not working your marketing strategies, right? We have to be truthful with ourselves, and that's the way we lead ourselves too. And I think a lot of people don't get that.
Yeah, well, I think it's scary.
Mhm.
I think we're afraid of the truth a lot of times. We're afraid of the accountability that it creates because it means it's my fault.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah. Right.
think of someone else.
So,
Yeah.
so what do you do in a situation like that, right? What you either, I think if you can if you can take that accountability and bring it inward for yourself and really realize that, and give yourself a good talking to that starts with I love you, right? And then take that to that next level. And how can you, like, you have to really practice this stuff, right? You have to practice these marketing strategies. They don't come normal for anyone, right? So
Yeah.
picking up the phone is a strategy.
So let's talk a little bit through, because I think anyone who listens to this, I want them to get a sense of, because I will, I'm going to talk about you and turn around with these businesses that you picked up, right? What could you highlight high level? I'm talking like it's a two-year view, because both of these, I think you had them performing well within the first year.
Mhm.
So maybe give us your 1 year and 3 month view. Like, what do you do? What do you go in? What's your mindset? And how do you sort of go, here's what I'm going to do to get this result? Because I think a lot of people in their businesses are often somewhere in that, like, how do I go in with Jean's eyes and
Mhm.
rethink what I'm doing so that I can turn myself around?
Well, yeah, let me tell you about that, right? Let's do, instead of 3 months, let's look at 2 weeks, right? So 2 weeks after buying that store, this is what it looked like, right? I'd never worked retail in my life. These were retail stores. And I found myself in the kitchen, sitting on an upside down milk crate, bawling my eyes out. Like literally, I've just made the biggest mistake. My kids are never going to go to college. And I am just having the biggest, best, bitter pity party for myself, right? And it really, because I didn't know, I didn't allow myself the truth of what that was going to look like to own a retail store that I'd never had any experience in. I had no help. I had no training. I had to figure it all out on my own, because the person, when I bought the business, who was supposed to stay with me for 4 months, left
Mhm.
after 2 weeks.
Oh,
I hadn't even opened some of the cabinets after 2 weeks, right? So
yeah.
yeah, that's what it looks like, right? It looks like, the fact is, you have a meltdown first, And then you have to realize what you've gotten yourself into as a business owner. And then how are you going to make it right? How are you going to fix it? And that's the part that most people want to do, but they're not willing to do all the work in order to get the result that they want. And I think that's where the leadership falls off. I literally didn't have an option to not do the work, right? I had to go in, I had to do the work. I had to figure it out before I could train anybody else and lead them to be able to carry on when I'm not there, right? It was, it's difficult. And after a year, and I had figured it out and I had put people in place and in charge and leading them correctly, right, was able to turn that around. I didn't do that by myself, right? I did that with a lot of help, with God's blessing, and with a lot of tears.
So it sounds like a couple things. So one was pressure. Sounds like the pressure was there that you were the source to make this business go,
Yeah. I,
right? And I think that's something as we think about it as leaders, you feel that more, I think, as a solopreneur because you're like, well, hey, if I don't, I can't eat. But as a corporate leader or a small business leader, you kind of are the constant source of the pressure. You sort of
a
set the
different kind of
tone.
pressure though, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the pressure on me to make sure I give good content, right? That I'm delivering what they need in order to move their businesses forward. But then it's also the pressure, how much pressure do I put on someone to so that they don't end up in a puddle of tears in the back room of their own
Mhm.
business,
Mhm.
right? I can put the pressure on myself. I can handle it, right? But my goal is not to make it so overwhelmingly hard for them, right, to get up and go. It's right. It's more encouraging and helpful instead of what I would do to myself, right?
Gotcha. Because in reality, they probably came to you because they have pressure.
E- Exactly. Well, it is hard to have a business and know that you're not making any money and not knowing what to do. And so you sit at your desk all day doing busy work, but not really doing any work, not getting anything done. That is pressure. That is stressful, right? I
The part, yeah, no, it is. It is. How many of you all put in the chat if you relate to this challenge of it's like how much pressure do you put on yourself, right? Are you in an inactive state because you put so much on yourself, or or really how do you release it, right? What are ways that you release that as you're looking down the barrel of where's my business going,
right,
right?
right.
What are some ways you would consult someone who's challenged, who's facing into C2C with a yes? What are some ways you would consult someone who's looking at their business, it's not performing like they want it to, right? And they'd like to see a shift in that. What's some help you would encourage them with?
Well, first of all, I would sit down and have a really big conversation because it's like, what are you doing? And if you're doing things you should be doing, why is it not working? Right? So we're going to have that conversation to start with. And then I'm going to start with, I love you, right? And then tell you what the real truth is about what you're not doing, right? You think you're doing all these things right, and you're doing a lot of it right, but you're not taking it all the way. Do you know what I'm saying? Is you're stopping just when it starts to get tough. So I do think that I guide people through that piece where it's almost like there's a troll there at a bridge and you don't want to go past the troll, but on the other side of the bridge is where the money is. So my goal is to really kick the troll aside for 5 seconds while I just get you onto the bridge, and then I will handhold you all the way to the end. Is that a good analogy? Maybe my boys play too many
It's
computer games about that, and I'm like hearing too much, right?
I know. Or you give me a little jet ski and I can get across the river without the troll altogether,
Yeah,
right?
maybe that. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
It's about
it's
fast.
interesting. So, what I really appreciate about what you're suggesting, and I would tell you all as listeners, I don't know if you do this with your business, but it's the same issue you have whether you're corporate or whether you're a solopreneur. We often can't see what someone else can. Right. So whether it's Gene, who is your choice, whether it's one of our other speakers, whether it's your best friend, whether it's someone else that you know in business, a lot of times we may be shameful about the challenges in our business. We feel like we don't want to show that we don't know things. We may have too much pride, right? But just sharing your business and your challenges openly with someone else is already a huge start to really helping your business to connect to the next level. And I think as an entrepreneur, there are the genes of the world, right? And others that we can work with. And as a corporate leader, you still need someone outside because your own team may not be the safe space, to do it.
And it's hard to share with your team, right, about the successes you have when they're not having the same successes, right? So it's almost like you don't, I would never go to my husband for certain business advice, right? First of all, why? Because it's no matter what he says, it's going to irritate me for the most part to start with, right? And the second part would be is he may not have any experience as an employee on what I deal with on a daily basis as an entrepreneur, right? Why are you spending so much money, right? Why are you buying this? Why are you still working with the same coach 10 years later, right? All those questions that go into this, he's going to question everything I do, which is okay, but it's going to irritate me at the same time. So I'm not going to go there. So, and I think that when the people I work with, they would get the same answer at home. So it's nice to have, and I think you would agree, it's nice to have that outside person who can see past your BS and know what you really need and then keep gently pushing you there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We need the camaraderie. How many of you all put in the chat if you're the type of person to naturally reach out when you're struggling, or if you're a type of person to keep it to yourself? I think just even that self-actualization, sort of acknowledging that, if you are someone who keeps it to yourself, I'd encourage you, if that's your core reaction, to think about who is it that you need to connect to, right? Who may be the right person to help you shift your business into the right direction. And the counter is, if you're naturally there you go, reacher outer, right? If you're a reacher outer, consider who are you going to? Because I think a lot of times, we just want connections. So we tell someone, and to your point, right, Jean, our spouses aren't our everything. That's the nature of being alive, right? No one person is your everything. And your expert maybe asking someone who's a Debbie Downer about being an entrepreneur. They never even started anything. And you're asking them about how to manage your business, right?
And
Um,
they're looking to protect you, right? They're really looking to protect you, and they're going to give you the advice is you don't need to spend money on this. You can figure this out yourself, right? And the truth is, if I could have, I would have done it 28 years before I actually did it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I saw the comment, right? I may reach out, but not to the best person. I think it's so often challenging because isn't it interesting how, there's a couple of things. Am I doing it for the feeling, or am I doing it to really get better? Because the person that's going to get better, number one, is successful.
Yeah.
And number two, if you're a little afraid that they might say something that's hard to hear, it's probably because it's true.
Yeah. And if you say something to your spouse and it's hard to hear, it's probably going to start a fight, right?
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Well, that's a whole other level of wisdom, right? As we think about how to curate a relationship in marriage while you're running your business and managing a business.
Right. Right.
Definitely a balance.
Yeah. No, no, I
So
agree.
what do you here, don't talk to spouse. Do you have recommendations, Jean, for what you do, or things that you might say that you've learned to do with your relationship as you're a business leader and you're managing a marriage that you would recommend?
Yeah. So after 44 years of marriage, right? It's a long time. Um, I do know I do listen, there's lots of things that I want his opinion on. He's a great marketer for a corporate person, right? Who's an engineer. He's a great marketer. He has ideas that I do listen to sometimes. So I will ask questions. And likewise, he's a product developer for Harbor Freight. And he will ask me about, listen, this is our conversation in the morning, right? We're on maybe on our way to breakfast. And it's like, if you were going to buy a flashlight, how many lumens would you be looking for? And I'm like, I'm going to Amazon and I'm buying whatever the cheapest flashlight is, right? That's not the answer he's looking for, right? So it irritates him. But that's what I would do because that's not my expertise, right?
Right.
So I try not to ask him questions that are not his expertise, but maybe just around marketing or something like that. But I very rarely will discuss a problem in my business other than maybe a marketing question or something like that. So that is how I handle it. Is I was are you married? Helmut?
No, I have been, but I'm not.
Okay. Would you say you're happy, but you're not?
Oh, no, no, no.
Oh, what did you
Yes,
say?
that's true too. No,
Okay.
I have been, but I'm
Oh,
not.
okay. So, shoot, now I forgot the question. Why was what I was going to tell you about um,
Marriage.
why I asked you about being married because it'll come back to
Okay.
me. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I will say, it is a dance. It's something important, right? As we think about the relationships in our lives, kind of not something we're talking about. You're going through, if you're doing a turnaround, right? And it becomes all consuming, right? It becomes something that is just you're living it, you're breathing it. Many of you all are probably living and breathing your businesses all the time, focused on what you're in, right? And you do want to still create connection with the people you love, whether those are your children, whether that's a spouse, whether those are friends that you're wanting to stay connected to. And there is this element of wisdom as to how much you share and how much you don't. And that's why people hire you and me, right?
And that I just talked to a woman who was thinking about working with me. We had a follow-up call, and she said, well, while I was on holiday, I went with a nice long walk with my sister, who's an attorney, and she told me blah, blah, blah. And now you could tell that she really admired, you already knew that she was an out, she was a
Yeah.
no, right?
Yeah.
But so there's no point in pissing her off by saying, why would you talk to your sister who's an estate planning attorney about this new business you're starting?
Right.
She has no experience in.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I irritate her or upset her to say that when she's already an out? She's already made up her mind about that. You we can tend to turn up and ask them questions that our families are not qualified to answer,
Right.
right? Or to help you with. So you have to be kind of careful there.
You do. I so this is sort of like the aggressive. I'm in a business. I'm turning it around. In this case, we've taken this story and we've talked about relationship to those around you that are supporting you, yourself, and in this case, maybe a spouse. Let's
Right.
talk about the people you're working with when you're trying to shift things in your business. What would you suggest around um, the connection you have to the people that are on your team as you're going through this sort of thing?
In what respect? Give me a little more context if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. In respect to, you're kind of ascertaining whether or not they're going to be good on your team. Are they your go forward? Are they not? Right? You're kind of evaluating the talent in your group because if you're in a turnaround mode, you're really trying to ascertain whether or not someone is the right fit for your go forward. And I'm going
Okay.
to turn my light on while you're talking.
That's okay. I was thinking that maybe you were talking about an employee. And at this point in my life, I've decided I'm not bringing on employees anymore because they can irritate me and suck the joy out of my life, right? So
Yeah.
now I just bring on virtual assistants or an assistant that when it's no longer working, I don't have to renew the contract, right? I don't have to pay the next invoice. I'm just done with them, right? And there's no hurt feelings, at least on my part. I don't feel like I've hurt them to just let them go and be happy with somebody else. But honestly, if you're talking about now when you lead your team, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, if you have a small business and you're talking about, I'm in a turnaround mode, right? I'm looking at the individuals to see, are you part of my future or our future?
Yeah, I just really, honestly, I just look to see, do at this point, are they professional? Do they have the skill set that I'm looking for? And I honestly don't get into the whole rest of that piece because my goal is I don't want to lead them. They're not my people. Does that make sense, Helmut?
It
I,
does, it does, it does. And I guess I would say, you know, the challenge, right? So if you are a small business owner and you have a few people,
yeah,
or whether you're in a huge team and underneath you, you usually have a few people, right? That are your directs that have all the other people. You're kind of in this mode of we're turning the ship around. I'm encouraging everyone to do so, but I'm also evaluating where everyone is in the boat, right? And if you're really all going to stay or not. And I think you probably did it with your contractors as well.
yeah. But the nice thing about a contractor is you don't have to have that is that with an employee you have to have that relationship as well, and it's a hard relationship because it's like they're not really your friend. I didn't want really my employees, first of all, they were mostly teenagers, but I didn't want them being my friends, right? I needed to lead them just like I lead my own children, right? And they were the same age as my children, and my children were part of that. But I just think that I'm just going to say at this age, my age right now, if you're not pulling your weight in the boat, I'm throwing you overboard fast, right? And that seems like and that's going to be done out of love. But do you know for who? It's going to be done out of love for me.
I would say that that's actually just sound advice anyway, right? So as you are, whether you're in a huge corporation, you're managing your own business, or you're just solo, right? The speed of decision making is so important because your perception, your perception, right, with the knowing, the truth that we talked about, is
Yeah.
often just enough for you to know, this isn't working out.
Yeah.
It's not working out, and let's move forward. It's a little slower in a big corporation, I'll tell you, just because of the HR red tape and stuff that you have to go through.
Exactly. And that's why I love being a small business owner. And honestly, I think that everybody who's listening here, the ones I see are small business owners here, you, they don't move fast enough, right? And I don't know what yours are, but I believe that wealth rewards speed. And it has always worked for me. And the faster you can make a decision, even if it's the wrong decision, the faster you can fix it to make it right. And listen, I used to be that person who would process the crap out of something, right? I'd think about it and I'd write about it and I would possibly think about starting doing it someday. And I will tell you a really great example of this is I used to do home direct sales, right? A
Yeah,
company called Creative Memories because I love scrapbooking. And I went to the conference with two other women in the car, and we were driving back from
yeah,
Minneapolis to Chicago. And there was two of us in the front seat and one in the back. By the time we got home, 6 hours, the woman in the back seat had made about, I don't know, 200 calls, and all she did was work in the back. By the time we got home, she had actually implemented every single thing we learned at that conference that she needed to grow this business because she was a single mom. She had to do this. While the two of us in the front seat are just chatting and laughing, and I don't know how she got any work done in the back, right? But the point is when I saw how fast she implemented and how fast it brought money in, she was making money in sales in the back seat of the car, right? I thought there's a lot to learn from moving fast. And I changed everything when I got home about working as fast and making fast decisions every single day.
yeah, yeah. I call that being an energy versus being an emotion, right?
Yeah.
Are you an energy, or are you in an emotion of contemplative state? And the worst is these things, right? They put us in emotion. Oftentimes we're sort of sitting and just sort of like, whoa. That is agreed, Barbara. It's a great story, moving fast. Very good. So, Jean, tell us, how can people? I know you're giving us a gift. Dawson's going to drop the gift
Okay,
here.
good.
And what is it that people can do with your gift?
Well, one of the things is that when I turned around those two bankrupt businesses, I did it with no cost marketing strategies, right? I didn't have any money. I didn't have a list. I didn't have anything. So what I do is I'm willing to help each person. I'll do about, I don't know, 5 or 10 of these. I don't care, but I will create their own custom marketing strategy for their business that they can turn around their business fast and start making more money. So they'll all get their own custom personal marketing strategy.
All right, we have a yay from the group.
Yeah.
That's a great freebie to think about. Thank you, Jean, for your graciousness in offering that to those who are engaging. And for those who are listening to the replay, we're going to put that into the comments so that you can definitely take advantage of Jean's generosity. Thank you, Jean, for joining us today.